Hi guys, this is Shorty Yoga. So this video is actually an explanation as to how you can become a yoga instructor and what studio you should do your teacher training in. So if the camera is shaking, that's magic. He's my little baby dog. He's playing around in the bottom here. But I did want to just talk about these details because this is one of the questions that I get asked the most. With that being said, here we go. Magic, let's stop, please. He wants to play with the ball. So how to become a yoga teacher, okay? One, you need to attend a facility that is Yoga Alliance certified. So most teacher trainings will tell you if they're Yoga Alliance certified. My recommendation in regards to where, okay, and this is the important question. First and foremost, I want to say that this answer might differ by person, but this is my best advice to you as someone who has been teaching for 6 years, has done a training both locally and internationally, and has participated in multiple teacher trainings myself as a guide and as a student. The first thing that you want to look for is, does this training provide what you are looking for? So when you are doing your 200-hour yoga teacher training, you want to come out as a basic teacher. And basic sounds very simple, but the reason why I'm using the word basic is because you are always going to add your personality, your flow, your energy to any sequence. So what you're going to look for is somebody that can guide you as to how to become comfortable teaching a group of people, leading them in and out of postures safely. That is super duper duper important. Now, when it comes to Sanskrit names, historical concepts of yoga, these are all things that you can, even the chakras, which we learned basic information about each chakra, and I'm very grateful for that because now chakras are one of my main teachings, and it's one of the things I am the most informed on and have done the most research on, read books on, and that was a personal choice, but I'm glad that I got an introductory to that within my yoga teacher training. So look for things that'll give you an introduction to everything. Introduction to safely hands-on experience. So to safely adjust somebody that is knowledgeable in that field. For example, we, Magic? Yeah, Papa. Yeah. Je suis en train de faire le bruit avec ton collier. Sorry, he's making a lot of noise here. So we had a physical therapist, yoga teacher show us the way, and that was the perfect way to lead a class safely and think about things like alignment, injuries, and things and other specificities that people may be going through that maybe you don't want to touch. Another thing that they had us do was trauma therapy, or trauma yoga, I should say. So if people are going or have been through severe trauma, specifically physical, knowing that you shouldn't necessarily put your hands on them or how to put your hands on them if they are comfortable for adjustments. So those are just specific details, but I'm just letting you know what to look for in a 200-hour teacher training. Okay, but the most important thing is that they guide you how to teach a class. You need to be comfortable being in a room with bodies, leading them in and out safely of yoga postures, right? So the depths, the details, all of those things, the Sanskrit that can come later, don't worry too much about that for your 200-hour teacher training. Now, this part is super important. Where to do your yoga teacher training? This is the question I get the most from strangers and from students of mine, especially during the pandemic, who have been interested in doing a yoga teacher training, maybe to deepen your practice, maybe to become an instructor yourself. I mean, people do it for all kinds of reasons. The main thing I will say about this is that your home studio, if you feel comfortable there, you feel loved there, you feel safe there, that will be your best bet for a yoga teacher training. Now, let's just say you're like me, you're in the United States, specifically I'm in New York, and teacher trainings here are thousands of dollars and they're not that affordable. What you're gonna wanna do is look into teacher trainings that are abroad, because there's always very cheap tickets that you can get out to somewhere and do a teacher training abroad. Now, with that being said, if you do a teacher training abroad, you need to make sure they're Yoga Alliance certified and that you can find, of course, lodging, someplace to stay that isn't too expensive on your budget as well. I will say this, the inconvenience of doing a teacher training locally, specifically I did mine in New York City at the home studio that I was attending. There's a lot going on in your own environment, in your own home. And so what ends up happening is you can easily get distracted. It's a very spiritual experience and it's a very emotional experience. And you are going to dive deep into yourself during your teacher training in ways that are unimaginable, especially if they do their job properly, the leaders of your training. So with that being said, sometimes you don't want to come home and have a bunch of work to do or have to clean your house or have things to resolve with friends or family or loved ones. You want to basically go home to a haven that is away from all of that. That is why I highly, highly recommend choosing a teacher training that is abroad. On top of that, you can support the Eastern side of yoga. Not that the westernized portion of yoga and teacher trainings in the Western world, in the United States specifically, are bad in any way, shape, or form. They are excellent. But sometimes you might not have all of the investments, or like I said, the things that distract you are too much and you want to completely go abroad. So I highly recommend looking into places like Bali, looking into places like India, looking into places like Thailand, where lodging is I don't want to say cheap, but less expensive, and you can get a nice teacher training done. And do your research on each school, make sure that they are clean, that they are safe, and that they have good reviews, right? And read the reviews. What do people say about this place? Did they like it because they felt comfortable? Did they like it because they felt like they could teach a class afterwards? Another important thing to take into consideration, so this would be essentially the third point to take into consideration when looking for a school, is do they offer you something afterwards? And you might not know this automatically, but you can do an internship or an apprenticeship somewhere where you get to just teach classes for free. So you're not getting anything out of it, you're not getting any funding out of it, but you need experience. So unless you take into your own hands the fact that you need to teach your friends, your fellow students, you need a place where you don't know these strangers, you don't know these people, and you get to practice how to be an instructor, right? So that is super, super duper important. Do they offer you something like a 3-month apprenticeship afterwards? Or is there somewhere accessible? Let's just say you do your program abroad. When you get back, is there your home studio or somewhere in your local city that you can do an apprenticeship at? So that's something you should start looking for as before you even start your teacher training, or as soon as you're in the middle of it, right? Because you need to practice to not even to get perfect, but to get comfortable. And that's the thing. It's all about the experience of doing things in a room of people and doing it on bodies. Sorry, plenty. So that would be number 3. Number 4. My name is Sabri. I'm Lebanese. Even though New York City made me super pale. One of the things that I look for in a teacher training, and this is very important to me personally and is not necessarily important to other people, is that there are guides, instructors of color, right? So I want to know that you are uplifting and showcasing Black women, women of color, men. We need to learn from men too. Cis men, queer men, whatever it may be, right? So what I'm looking for is representation. Are you involving and incorporating other people besides the typical Western society, white, skinny female body that we're so used to seeing in the yoga community, okay? Super important to me, like I said, but I was telling a student of mine the other day, he's an African-American male. I said to him, where should I do my yoga teacher training? I said, do you in your home studio, and what I mean by home studio, I've repeated it a lot, is the place where you are regularly taking yoga, because you should be regularly taking yoga somewhere if you're trying to become an instructor. It is important that you start to feel out places and feel out where you're going with yoga to understand what's next, okay? So he asked me, where should I do my teacher training? And I said, this is what I said to him. I said, well, in your home yoga studio, do you feel comfortable as a Black man? Do you feel like there are representation of other Black men there or of other people of color there that make you feel comfortable? And he said, yes. And I said, beautiful. Then that is something that you might need to consider, because maybe him learning from 3 white women might not be the same experience than someone he can relate to. Is there somebody in your teacher training that is a guide that you can relate to? I think that's very important. At least it is to me. Having grown up in West Africa and felt like I've always been surrounded by people of many cultures, it's important that I'm around guides that are very cultured so that I'm not limiting my experience, my spiritual experience, and my spiritual growth. That's a personal opinion, once again. Number 5, and this is the important one, the most important one. Find somewhere where you can have a good time and really enjoy the experience. That it's not this schooling that is traditional to the United States of like rigid programming and here's your credits and you need to study and this and that. You need to also be able to connect. And there's 2 people, not 2 people, but 2 things that you're going to connect to. The first one is yourself. And the other one is finding a sense of community. Because if you don't find a sense of community in your teacher training, it's going to be hard for you to use those same bodies and feel comfortable with those same bodies to practice and make mistakes on. Do you understand what I'm saying? So find a place you feel like your heart is warm, your body is safe, you're loved, you're open to new opportunities, and that you can see somebody that represents you, right? That you can look up to and be like, that's my mentor. I'm gonna make sure that's my mentor. I'm going to connect to this person. I'm going to ask this person for advice. All right. I hope you enjoyed this information session. If you like these, subscribe, let me know, and I'll do more. Feel free to ask me questions in the comments. It was such a pleasure chatting with you. It's really early in the morning in New York, so I'm looking pretty tired, but I've had this on my mind because so many people have asked me for this information and I wanted to share it with the world. I hope you get something out of it. And if you do, give me a like, give me a subscribe, share it with your friends. Sending mad love.